What is the most disgusting thing you've witnessed someone do in public? Try on shoes with dirty bare feet covered in some sort of foot fungus, then rebox and put them back on the shelf. Ordering shoes online seems much more preferable all of a sudden. Once saw a homeless man grab a pigeon, strangle it to death, and then take a bite out of its head like it was an apple. And then he left Black Sabbath. I saw a way overweight lady crap her pants and continue eating at a buffet. Go to make room for more somehow, I guess. A guy pressed his bare ass up against the glass inside of a jeweler store and diarrhea liquid crap everywhere. It was disgusting. It completely covered the glass and you could clearly see it coming out of his anus. It slowly dribbled down the glass as a security guard escorted him out. Pants at his ankles, crap at his thighs. It's a tie between. A longtime friend became a rage addict, was hanging out with me one day in Midtown Manhattan while suffering withdrawals. I was oblivious. She seemed normal for once, when she suddenly projectile vomited chunky barf on a crowded city sidewalk while screaming. I was riding the NYC subway, packed train, saw a strange motion in my peripheral vision on my right side that caught my attention. Turned and saw a man yanking at his dong like his life depended on it while staring at me. I leapt to my feet and practically flew to the other side of the car. I sat in shock for a few seconds, more embarrassed and mad. Really, I'd been told this was inevitable as a chick in NYC and was pissed that it was apparently true. Noticed that nobody was reacting in a similar manner and felt batshit for a second. I thought I'd possibly hallucinated a stranger's angry red dong because nobody was batting an eye. So I leaned over and, lo and behold, nope, he's still going at it and nobody gives a crap. Fuck, frick that guy's dong. Figuratively, not literally. There's this trend I've been seeing in men's restrooms. After they pee, these guys just go dry their hands without washing them. What the frick is on your hands that you have to dry them? I once saw a guy who finished at the urinal, walked to the sink, put his hands in the sink, then walked over to the dryers and used them for 10 seconds. At no point however did he bother turning the tap on. How much extra effort would it have taken to complete this one additional and fairly crucial step? I once saw a woman pull her pants down and take a crap in a park. It was absolutely disgusting. Sounds like must have been a little drunk. Girl pulled out a bloody tampon and threw it on the ground. This was at Lucky 2015 in Seattle. Frick's sake, didn't even put a new one in. I witnessed a mom on the bus put her mouth over her toddler's nose and suck the snot out. I had to get off the bus so I could vomit. Haha, this one is the winner. That is so nasty. 'Twas the day before Christmas. I was walking out of a Walmart in Texas when a lady projectile vomited while crossing the threshold. It was brown and I thought it was coffee until I saw the chunks. Her boyfriend asked if she was okay and she was like, yeah, I'm fine, and kept walking inside. We never went back to that Walmart. 'Twas the day before Christmas, and in the superstore, a lady was vomiting all over the floor. Leave a dirty diaper on the table for the waitress to bus at a sit-down restaurant. Years ago when I was in the army stationed in Georgia, I swung by the Popeyes that was on post to grab some of their mac and cheese. I walk in and go up to the counter like normal and say hi to the dude behind the counter who I kind of knew. Dude begins to take my order but looks behind me and off to the side in a way that very clearly was trying to subtly prompt me to look. So I do, and I see this massively obese guy, we're talking 500 plus lbs, in one of those motorized fatty carts. He's rocking an oxygen tank and an American flag shirt and is going to town loudly slurping through a straw. The fluorescent lights he's parked his cart under casting this greasy sheen against his neck folds. Thinking that the guy behind the counter just wanted to point out a gross fat guy being fat, I turned back around and make a face to indicate said grossness. The guy could tell I didn't quite get the situation, so he shook his head and leaned in across the counter towards me and lowered his voice. He's drinking gravy. My expression must have went from gross to WTF, because he continued. He comes in here all the time and gets a quart of gravy and just drinks it. I look back at the guy with an entirely new appreciation for the situation. I tried to not be too obvious about it but it didn't seem to matter. The guy seriously looked like he was cooming in his sweatpants from the rapture of sucking down that Popeye's Cajun gravy through the straw, like it was the greatest experience of his life. totally in his own world. I doubt he noticed me looking, and even if he did, I don't think you reach the point of chugging straight gravy in front of a Popeyes counter in your mobility scooter without having long since abandoned any capacity for shame. That dude clearly gave zero fricks about anything. Needless to say, I lost my appetite. I apologized to the guy behind the counter, cancelled my order, and left without my mac and cheese. I've never been back to any Popeyes since, and I doubt I ever will. Looked like he was seeming in his sweatpants from the rapture. Fudgism. A stalker at Walmart, casually stocking the dairy case with his whole butt hanging out of his pants. He was a large man and had his pants almost to his knees with a very long polo that covered his ass. But every time he leaned over to put something on the shelf, his full bare bottom was exposed for all to see. I was so shocked. It wasn't just butt crack, but a full moon. That's no moon. I once witnessed an incredibly drunk lady get a huge, growing wet stain in her jeans on the train. It just kept on growing and growing. I left before she did, but I assume the seat was soaked. Just nasty. Bet your eyes were growing wider as stain was growing bigger. I was walking in SF with my ex-girlfriend and her 12-year-old sister. We were near Market Street by that big mall. Watched a fat homeless lady get up from her spot, move 4 feet closer to the road, pull up her dress moo and popped a squat, then crap diarrhea all over the ground. She then put her dress down and shuffled a few steps back to her spot to sit down. She crapped less than 5 feet away from where she was posted at. No wiping, of course. We crossed the street before reaching her. Scratch their balls before going through the produce bin at the grocery store. This, my friend, is the reason why you should wash fruit before eating. Tame compared to the rest of the thread, but I was in a business meeting once where a guy got bored and started trimming his nasal hair right in the meeting room. I was just a little stunned. I've seen a few. Working in restaurants only adds to it. Saw a girl blow 2 guys in a U-shaped booth at a bar. Wasn't discreet. Witnessed a strip dance challenge between a drunk blonde sorority girl and a 60-something-year-old homeless guy at a Waffle House at 3 AM. It was cool until she took her pants off. He followed her lid, and that's when the cops showed up. Was at a dive bar where the men's bathroom toilet's door had a huge hole in it, like someone's head got put through it. So, as I walk into the restroom, here's this dude banging some chick on top of this toilet. The Virgin Mary would have died again as she had to walk into this room. But, lust, I guess. An hour or so later, I go to use the restroom again, and through the same gaping hole in the door, what do I see? A dude doing rails of coke on the same toilet, bareback, just like the previous tenants. Was at a concert once. Managed to get to the front of the line at the gates by chance. The area the gates are was slightly uphill from the rest of the line. This chick in front of our group pulls her pants down and pops a squat. As her stream started rolling downhill like a glacial melt in the spring, the crowded line splits into 2 as if Moses were parting the Red Sea. I watched a homeless dude frick a newspaper machine. I bet he got good press. Not the most disgusting, but at least my most memorable. A special needs kid sneezed in the hallway at my elementary school, and the snot basically reached the floor. Instead of, I dunno, just pulling it off his nose, he started curling it up on his finger until he completed the task. The grossest isn't that bad, but it was the brazenness of it. This woman was pushing her baby in a stroller in the grocery store. Her M-head type boyfriend had his hand all over her, and then he put his hands in the back of her shorts and started fingering her as they walked. As they are shopping, he's alternating between fingering this woman in front of her kid and picking up and putting items in their cart with his nasty hoe vagina fingers. I call him out and told them they were disgusting and needed to get the heck out of the store, and I would get their kid taken away if they didn't quit being crappy nasty people. It turned into a surprisingly long argument. She's going to get a heck of a yeast infection or BV. I saw a woman infested with head lice at Walmart, so I guess what she was doing is just being alive. It was terrible. You could see her hair moving. I ran away. Holy crap, now my head's itching from just thinking about it. And now I can't stop itching my head, because it feels like it's crawling with lice. Thanks for that. When I was in grad school, my roommate and I went for a late night McDonald's breakfast run. We're in the drive-thru line and 2 girls drunk out of their mind come walking up. One girl shouts to her friend that she has to pee, so she goes off to the side, completely removes her skirt and underwear and squats down. In full view of all the cars, she proceeds to remove a bloody tampon and then pee. Somebody from one of the cars had gone inside to let a manager know there was a half-naked girl peeing outside in the drive-thru. Manager comes out, escorts the girls inside. IDK, what happened after that? Saw someone pick the thick layers of dead skin off his feet and drop them to the floor at a middle school band concert. I feel like people's dead skin cells should be left at home. I have a couple. First one is more funny than disgusting. I saw a guy having a pee on a public toilet, as in the outside wall of the building. Second one is an old nutcase eating a pizza that he was resting on the top of a public bin. It was still in the box, so not too bad. But then after he'd finished it, he cupped some water that had collected on the top of the bin and drank it. The other day I saw a homeless guy spit in a cup and then drink it. Oh, and I was also on a flight a while back and the woman next to me started cutting her fingernails, letting the trimmings fly everywhere. A homeless lady was roaming around this Korean supermarket. She was your run-off-the-mill crazy woman. Sadly, she found a victim to harass. A shopper just leaving the store kept following her, mumbling or yelling at her. When the shopper ran back to her car, crazy lady blocked her path. Woman couldn't back out of her parking spot. Then the homeless lady lifted her skirt. She wasn't wearing panties and started to poop behind the shopper's car by bending over. Cannot unsee that. I saw this from the other side of the parking lot. That poor girl's face. I'll never forget the terror. Saw a video of a girl in a mini skirt pull crap out of her butt and toss it on the ground outside a club. Like it was nothing, just standing there with a crap hand, acting like nothing happened. I once saw a lady change her baby's diaper on a dinner table at the booth next to me, while there was food on the table as well, that she was still eating while changing the diaper. Like, take a bite, do another step in diaper change, take another bite, another step, etc. till the baby was cleaned and changed. Then she just went back to eating. No hand washing anywhere in this process. I saw an old guy in a Walmart track crap all over the floors throughout the store. While we were getting our shopping done, there was some kind of off-putting smell, but we couldn't find where it was coming from. It was only when we had paid and got a quick snack from the subway that we realized the source of the smell was the old man sitting at a table just 6 feet away from us who had crap sliding down his leg. The weirdest part about it was that, from what I saw, he didn't seem crazy or anything. He was even making small talk with the workers and security guards who walked past. I have no idea what happened to him because my mom got us out of there real fast after she realized where the smell was coming from and what the smell and brown streaks on the floor were. Does a video count? Cause I saw one of a couple freaking like rabbits in a park across from a children's playground. Yay, in subs like are trashy, you see a lot of videos like that. During college, I was in line for late night drunk pizza with some friends, and we saw a guy cut the line, reach into the trash and pull out a half-eaten pizza slice, hide it in his shirt, then proceed to buy another slice of pizza. What blew my mind was that no one else seemed to notice him. One weekend in San Francisco, I saw a homeless man who made really intense eye contact with me, like he was daring me to look away. This lasted a good 10 seconds until he looked away. I then realized he had been jerking it that whole time. It was 2 p.m. on the waterfront. It's a toss-up between whipping it out at a light rail station or emptying a urine bag at a light rail station. I was at a party and watched a girl literally stand against a wall and pee through her romper. She didn't even attempt to move her underwear romper out of the way, just full on pee. It was disgusting. I also witnessed a homeless man pull his pants down, squat, and then proceeded to crap right next to a busy intersection. All you can eat buffet employees, what is the most disgusting display of gluttony you have witnessed? I was at a buffet where a guy literally just took entire tray of onion rings. Not just all the onion rings but the tray they were in. The manager went over and tried to tell him to return the tray, but before they could remove it the dudes dumped like a liter of gravy on them and they were all fricked. When I was staying in a travel tavern a few years ago, a guy came to the breakfast buffet with his own big plate to get more food. The staff clearly knew he was doing it. Apparently the guy lived there and did it daily. Needless to say, he had the last laugh. Never directly witnessed, but when our local China buffet first opened it was a simple all you can eat. Not 2 weeks later there was a big sign that said 2 hours time limit max. Probably the worst was when I went to Golden Corral that had just opened in my town with my family. A woman on a scooter, she had to be at least 600 pounds, was going around to each section and just piling the food onto about 3 plates. If you know Golden Corral, the baked potatoes are typically sitting near the Mexican nacho stuff. As I picked up the tongs to grab a potato, she zoomed right past me, almost smashing me against the counter, and on all 3 plates, she continuously scooped nacho cheese out and piled it on top of her food. It was all pot roast, steak, pizza, etc., including those butter rolls you get there, all covered in nacho cheese. Don't get me wrong, nacho cheese is a magical thing, but, I'm pretty sure she's a boss and Dead Rising 3. The worst I think that I ever saw was a couple filling up 2 tables with more than 5 plates, filled up with food, in the freaking breakfast, like 9:30 am, and never ate even 30% of it. What happened next was even more stupid. They picked up their filled dishes and went to the surrounding tables to see if anyone wanted any food that was in it. I was at an Asian buffet where they kept the sweet and sour sauce in a hot well. In the booth next to me I hear one old lady say to the other, "Have you tried this sweet and sour soup?" Lo and behold, this woman is eating a bowl of sweet and sour sauce with a spoon. That makes me nauseous. Embassy Suites complimentary breakfast. Woman comes downstairs and with the towels from her room, takes the sterno tray of bacon, and walks back to her room. I am not a confrontational person. If I saw someone pile up their plate to the point of emptying the tray, so be it. Actually taking the tray and leaving the dining area, I don't know what I would say, but I would have to say something. 2 adults piling jelly over their roast meal at a theme park buffet, then proceeding to stick their heads under the ice cream machine and to top it off, scraping their scraps into various different pot plants. I was at a Golden Corral about 30 miles south of Dallas TX when I was in HS. This dude looking like Large Marge's brother grabbed a chair and pulled it up to a buffet line. I reached over to get some pizza and this dude told me I can't have it and that it's all his. He seriously freaked out because I grabbed a couple slices. What surprised me even more was the employees didn't even react to the guy sitting there while patrons had to walk around him to get food. I can't believe staff would allow that. He had to be a contamination risk being under the sneeze guard like that. At the very least they shouldn't allow such a large butthole near the food. Edit. Rogent. Not an employee, but I live in China. Just Google Chinese buffet and go to videos. It is ridiculous. I've seen it firsthand. People will literally shove you out of the way and scoop up food with their bare hands or use their plate as a shovel. Then they won't even eat the stuff at their table. It was a moonless night, dark as pitch, when out of the mist came a beast more stomach than man. He ate all our shrimp and 2 plastic lobsters. He was no man. He was a remorseless eating machine. My friend's brother would pack 2 bread rolls into his cheeks as he was leaving, to eat later, like a buffet ninja chipmunk. Where I live we get loads of Chinese tourists. They come and fill their plates with mounds of food, usually seafood, and not even eat half of what they took. Then we have to throw the rest away. Many all-you-can-eat buffets have a simple rule: you pay for what's left over. Would solve this problem nicely, and it's certainly not just restricted to Chinese tourists. Actual buffet worker here, this is actually not funny, but here goes. It was a couple. She was probably 500 pounds and wheelchair bound. He wasn't that much lighter, but walked only via using her wheelchair like a walker. They were put at a table that holds 2 chairs on each side. They had the wheelchair on one side, 1 chair on the other. They were slow getting food back to the table, but they each brought 2 mounding plates, like layer after layer. Not trying to be rude, but they were each so large, they really couldn't lean in over the plate. Food had a large journey to make from plate to mouth, and things like rice and such were falling off. Yes, they were getting food on themselves. The table next to them demanded to be moved as they were disgusted by the mess, plus their heavy breathing. It was getting late, so we just didn't seat anyone else next to them. Mrs. Simpson, what did you and your husband do after you were ejected from the restaurant? We pretty much went straight home. Mrs. Simpson, you're under oath. We drove around until 3 AM looking for another all-you-can-eat fish restaurant, and when you couldn't find one, we went fishing. Do these sound like the action of a man who had all you can eat? Not so much a disgusting display of gluttony, more of just a disgusting display. I was at an AYCEB and tucking into my meal. I was looking over at the food as I was getting ready for round 2. There was another customer up there filling his plate. Long story short, the guy had too much food on there and some items fell on the floor. Instead of leaving it or even letting a member of staff know, he put his plate down, bent down and picked up the items and put them back in the buffet for someone else to get and eat. Safe to say, round 2 did not happen that day. When you wonder how much of that happens on a daily basis, it's enough to avoid all you can eat places altogether. Fat woman walking with a cane came and grabbed about 6 handfuls of orange chicken. She didn't use the serving spoons. I went to a place called Pizza Ranch. It was just opening for lunch and after being seated I walked up to get a couple slices of pizza and 2 fat women rushed up to the counter and grabbed all 6 pizza trays that had just been put out. They then piled on all the chicken in the heating tray, while those 2 fat B ate their food. The rest of us, about 30 people, had to wait another 25 minutes for something to eat ourselves. Stupid hogs ended up leaving half of the food on the table after they gorged themselves. I've long since vastly improved my diet, but when I was 20, I encountered my first parent unsupervised breakfast buffet at a nice hotel. I loved bacon and had never been allowed more than 3-4 pieces at once, so I loaded my plate with over 60 pieces of bacon. I think it was 63. I proceeded to eat it all. About 2 hours later, the salt hit me in full. My stomach hurt the rest of the day, and even guzzling water for hours didn't ebb the worst dehydration hangover I've ever had, beyond any drinking morning after. Never again. Oh man, never again. Haha, it's such a great rite of passage, going directly against your parents' normal rules about not eating too much of something. I did the same with sweets, skipped dinner, just had Skittles, felt rubbish, then you realize your parents were probably correct all along. Not an employee, just a guy who likes crab legs. Went to get some when I saw they refilled it and some other guy literally took all of them on 2 plates in front of me even after I told him there's other people. I wish I would have stopped him. I sat next to a family, mother, father and 2 sons, not fat, which seemed normal at first. So after 3 plates of food, one of the sons stopped eating and told his parents that he was full. The mother started shouting at the child that she will never bring him to another restaurant ever again if he only eats that little. It wasn't little. So the child starts eating again and forced himself eating a little more. So after another plate, he said again that he could not go further. His mother was still pissed and told him to at least eat 1 more plate with desserts and crap. So he gets himself a dessert and was barely done with it and boom. He throws up like a waterfall, puking all over the table and starts crying. His parents and the other child didn't say nor do anything, so I ran to a waiter to get some napkins. Later, the mother started to address reproaches to his child and I was like WTF. I stopped eating since it was just disgusting how people can act like trash bags if there is an all-you-can-eat buffet. Oh, the smell didn't help either. Later, the mother started arguing with the owner and said that his food was expired and bad. The owner tried to be reasonable but got furious in the end and demanded the family to pay the bill and frick off. I saw someone get a huge bowl of chocolate pudding then ladle it into a Ziploc bag that they carried under their coat. Later they cut a corner off the Ziploc bag and slowly squeezed the pudding into their mouth, sort of like a hamster drinking from a water bottle, and that person was me. I was the guest in this story and not my proudest moment. This happened like 20 years ago but it is still fresh in my mind like yesterday. A good friend of mine just received like his annual salary as bonus for outstanding performance in his sales job. He had a 6-figure salary. To celebrate, he took like 20 of his close friends to a local Chinese restaurant. This restaurant operates an unlimited menu system. It is not a buffet. They charge per head and you can order unlimited item on the menu. There's 20 of us so we split into 2 table of 10s. Someone suggested that we just simple order 1 of each item on the menu and see which table finished all the food the fastest. Food came and gone. We ate, laughed and competed. It was all good. 2 hours later, it became a marathon. We were struggling and people were dropping off like flies. I had to go to the toilet. I stumped across my friend, the host, who didn't make it to the toilet in time. He was puking right outside the toilet, into a potted plant. What's worse is, he was puking out whole shrimps and big pieces of beef, unchewed. Yeah, we were still talking about that night 20 years on. The restaurant I work at isn't all you can eat by default, but we do have a breakfast buffet on Sunday mornings I'm always there for. Food taken is meant to be eaten on site only, but we have had numerous cases of people helping themselves to ridiculous amounts and putting it into a container or bag to take home. We only get so much stock on Sundays and buttholes like them have been responsible for us running out early, causing later customers to miss out. And at the risk of being downvoted for being intolerant, it's always either Asian people or ridiculously overweight people. I seriously have never seen anyone who doesn't fit either description pull this kind of crap in the few years I've been working there now. I used to do a little acoustic guitar act at a nicer upscale restaurant my girlfriend at the time waitressed at. I would come in and play quietly in the corner for the brunch buffet special every Sunday. My girlfriend had mentioned this customer before, but I never understood until I saw this little middle-aged woman who weighed maybe 90 pounds soaking wet would come in every week for the all-you-can-eat brunch special. She would load up 5 plates at a time, and before you knew it they were all empty and she was on her way to the bathroom. After almost 15 plates each Sunday they eventually had to ban her. So sad. Worked at a place, so many stories. The one that stood out for me were the 2 kids who decided it would be a great idea to make huge castles out of mashed potato directly on the table while their parents looked on. I hope they at least had the common courtesy of making a gravy moat. I realize that Russian holiday people will just take plates full of food and leave half full plates lying to rot, probably to show off their wealth. Heck yeah, paid $12 for this buffet and only ate $8 worth. Bow before my display of wealth, punes. Worked breakfast buffet at a local hotel. We had these bakayaf breads that the guests could cut slices from themselves. Once a very big man walked to the bread section and grabbed a whole bread and then sat down and ate it without butter or anything, holding it with his bare hands. I wasn't even shocked. I was on a cruise ship holiday. This really fat woman that was really struggling with her movement packed her plate to the fullest at breakfast. When she tried to put another piece of bread on there, it fell off the plate, on the floor. Being the athletic girl, you can only imagine her robotic movement when she kicked the bread under the buffet table to hide her gluttony. Had some real slapstick humor to it. A long time ago I worked at a restaurant where they had an all-you-can-eat Sunday roast for about £10. One guy came in every week and filled several large plastic bags with meat, gravy, veg to save for his midweek meals. I mentioned this to the owner and he said meh. Apparently he still made money on this guy. We used to have the bulimia lady come in at the end of the day. She would get 2 or 3 plates of food and hover over them with her arms covering her face, shoveling food into her mouth with her hands. She was about 5 feet tall and 100 pounds. She would then go to the bathroom and repeat the process 4 or 5 times. We eventually banned her. There is a casino buffet by my house. Every so often they have a coupon to get gamblers into the casino where they offer $5 admission on Friday crab leg night. Normal price is around $21. I've walked in there before and seen lines that, no joke, honest to God, 4-hour wait to get into the buffet. Now, they typically have crab legs on Tuesdays as well, and while you see your typical displays of gluttony, think chain smoking overweight casino crowd, the worst part is the opportunity cost. If one made minimum wage, it would make more sense to work their minimum wage job and go on Tuesday night instead of waiting 4+ hours in line for $5 all-you-can-eat crab legs. Never made sense to me. But then again, this is the casino crowd we're talking about. On a hilarious note, my mom is an Emerald card holder at the casino, which means we are allowed to bypass a buffet line. Well, she met me there for dinner, and just to spite everyone I asked to go to the buffet. People were freaking pee when we got to bypass the entire 4-hour line and be seated immediately. They reserve a table for Emerald members. Make more sense to work their minimum wage job and go on Tuesday night instead of waiting 4+ hours in line for $5 all-you-can-eat crab legs. Like you said, this isn't the smartest crowd. Plus people lose their minds over a discount. In China whenever I've been it's been just absolutely packed with the typical seafood stacking, but most of the locals will just stay in the area, hide in the washroom for a bit, then come back out for round 2. Hard to use a washroom in those places since everyone's trying to get the food to come out of either end to put more in. I used to be an assistant manager at a popular buffet restaurant. Sundays would be insanely busy as church let out and people came in hordes for lunch, all dressed in their Sunday church best. Many of the women would have huge, ornate hats which matched their fancy dresses. On occasion, I would become aware of a woman taking food and placing it in the brim of her giant hat to hide it for taking home. Imagine being in a position where it was your job to approach one of these hugely obese women about the food in her hat. I love this question and hope it has responses. My response is not quite there, but one time in Austin, TX I went to a Pocky Joe's barbecue maybe for the first time and it was great, but I saw this enormous man devouring an equally enormous mound of barbecued brisket and sides with vigor and enthusiasm. I mean like $50 of meat. I had spent about $12 including a drink and that's a big meal for a regular guy like me, and I thought okay I'm in the right place. And this was the one on Palmer Lane. It's not that great but it's pretty good. I wrote as much in my Yelp review and the owner designee or whoever replied and said thank you. We aim to serve all our customers. Yeehaw. This is literally my area. I work at a sushi buffet. I love my job since I always meet cool customers but sometimes we get customers who would go absolutely insane if I take away their finished plates. Since some sushi items are served in small plates, customers stack the plates into a tower and shamelessly photograph their finished sushi tower and post via social media. Drives me insane every time. Golden Corral employer here and I believe I've told this story before. Once this big lady started crapping her pants on her way to the bathroom, crap fell down her legs through her shorts onto the floor in front of the dessert bar. She cleaned herself up and went back to the table and kept eating. I was walking past a bunch of workers standing by the bar and saw something on the floor. I asked the manager, "Is that caramel?" He answered, "No, Cam 890, that's crap." I used to be a cook in a place that served all-you-can-eat breakfasts and one thing that used to grind on myself and other cooks doing the dreaded breakfast shifts is that you'd get a and you'd always have 2 people who would literally put about 2 kilos of sausages and bacon on their plates, emptying the pots on the gantry and the next customers would look at the cook like a dickhead. The abuse you'd get because your next batch of food would be 5 minutes away yet no one ever bats an eyelid at the people in front of them getting obscene amounts of food on tiny plates. It's all you can eat. Take a bit and come back for more. Don't hog it all you greedy dongs. The abuse you could get at 8:30 AM was unreal and your disdain for people would grow tremendously. The one and only time I've ever been to an all-you-can-eat I ate so much Chinese food and ice cream that I puked all over the bathroom floor. I was trapped by puke in the corner of the cubicle and my friend had to pull me out. It was not pretty. What's the most disgusting thing that's ever been inside your mouth and how did it get there? Cigarette ash Coca-Cola. When I was about 4, I went on a picnic with my family. As a child I would dive on the chance to obtain anything sugary or sweet. When I noticed that my mum left her bottle of Coke idle, I dove on it only to realize that she had been using it as an ashtray. The taste and feel was revolting. Couldn't even begin to estimate the number of times I drank this mixture from age 2 to 6. Chocolate covered giant ant. I put it there. It popped when I bit down on it. Plus the legs got stuck in my teeth. Bird poop. An extremely accurate shot from high above. I still hear them laughing. Dang, that's impressive. I bet the bird still tells that story to his bird buddies to this day. Poop. I was like 6 years old and we were having hot dogs. I went to the bathroom and did not wash my hands. When I got back to the table, I saw something that I assumed was ketchup on my fingertip, so 6-year-old me decided to lick it. I am dry heaving just reliving the moment. Decaying gecko. I grabbed a glass out of the cupboard and briefly looked at it. It was clean, or so I thought. Filled my cup up with Coke, went, sat at my computer and got back to my game, slowly sipping away. I get to the last few mouthfuls and get to this slimy thing. I spat it out real quick and run to the sink, rinsing my mouth out. There was more in the bottom of the glass, so I pour it into the sink to inspect. I missed the grossness when I grabbed the glass because the glass faded to a dark color at the bottom, so the quick cursory glance missed it. Coke hasn't tasted the same. A buddy of mine dips tobacco. He was spitting into an empty beer bottle which he put down next to my beer bottle. Long story short, I took a big swig of his spit dip mixture and ended up spraying it all over his living room. Neither of us was happy. I've actually seen this happen way too many times. Mostly kids drinking their own spit though. College parties where kids are double fisting cans, one for beer and the other for spit. This and the combination of being drunk always caused a slight mix-up. They should depict this situation in anti-tobacco commercials. When I first started dating my fiance, she was doing laundry at my place since I had a washer dryer. Long story short, she decided to put some detergent into a water bottle to make it easy to bring over, and in the middle of the night I found it on the bathroom sink while relieving myself. I took a swig and luckily knew something was terribly wrong before swallowing. Afterwards I couldn't swear for 3 days. I wonder what the age limit is for people to get the last line of this. I was awakened one morning by a foul taste in my mouth. My infant son had climbed out of his crib and was retrieving little crap balls from his diaper and putting them in my mouth. This happened a long time ago, but I still remember the taste. And that's the day I put my son up for adoption. A combination of ground up cow parts, poop, bile and blood. It was awful. I work at a beef processing plant in probably the worst department. I'm in rendering, which means I get all the diseased cows that are destined to become people food. We grind them up and send them off in a pressurized tank to be cooked down into a fine powder. Well, the pressurized tank opened while it was sending and launched cow goo everywhere and I got a healthy sized mouthful of it. Vagisil. Check your toothpaste before brushing. Bachelor pad in my early 20s. Drunk. Drinking beer. Did not realize that there was a garbage can. Couple week old beer can with cigarette butts. Bits of old food that fell on table. Etc. On the table. Taking shots of liquor with friends. Need something to chase it with. And quickly. Pick up wrong can and throw it back. Takes me 2 seconds to realize. 2 seconds is not a long time. But next time you have a can of something, drink it for 2 seconds. And you'll realize 2 seconds is a freaking eternity. I almost gagged thinking about that taste. A palmetto bug. I live in Florida, and palmetto bugs love the hot, humid weather and the live oaks that grow everywhere. They're huge and gross and I have a pretty serious phobia of them. One summer night, some friends and I were hanging out on our porch one night having a few beers. I took a swig out of my bottle and felt what I initially thought was a cigarette butt in my mouth. I fished it out of my mouth and started to ask who the frick had put a cigarette butt in my beer, but I saw that I was actually holding a gigantic bug. Instead, it was probably the length of my thumb. Spent the rest of the night in the bathroom swishing mouthwash and willing myself not to throw up. Yeah, I lived in Florida. Call them what you will, but they are roaches. Bottom line, that's nasty. Taste wise, liquid charcoal when they had to pump my stomach. Plunging the toilet at work with my mouth open. You do the math. I read that wrong at first. I thought you were using your mouth to plunge the toilet. I'm a home care aide. I essentially act as a big brother to individuals. One time, a few years back, I was taking a young man to the YMCA to do some ping pong and swimming. He had an issue with overstuffing his mouth and not chewing his food correctly, so, after eating a hot dog in 2 bites, he began to throw up. I didn't have a bag or anything and we were driving on the highway, so I gave him a big gulp cup with some ice left in it to vomit in, which he filled to the brim with chunky hot dog puke. After my shift ended that night, on my drive home, I absent-mindedly picked up my big gulp cup to get a couple ice cubes to crunch on and ended up filling my mouth with his hot dog puke. It changed me. Oh god, this made me want to die. A duck embryo. I started by eating it at a family function. Tried a bit of diplomacy by eating some of my wife's culture foods, you know, impress the in-laws. When I was little I found a used condom on the pool deck and thought it was a balloon. That's some serious cringe right there. Chalk. I was addicted to eating chalk in middle school. It's probably not as disgusting as some of the things on this thread, but for me looking back makes me feel disgusting. I'm more disgusted by this than the used condom kid. Just the texture chalk and imaging it on my teeth. Oh god. I licked a girl's kidney stone. It still had crystallized blood on it. Tasted like very salty butter. Why? I read like 5 replies on this thread and I feel genuine need to brush my teeth and drink a bottle of mouthwash. Turn back and stop reading while you still have the opportunity. Ooh, drinking mouthwash is super gross. I had to cough while rinsing with mouthwash once and accidentally swallowed it. Ooh. Stomach cramps too. Probably dog crap. I mean, think about all the gross crap they eat, then they digest it and crap it out of their ass. How did it get there? Well, being a toddler is quite the learning experience and there's a lot of trial and error. I drank from a Coke can. Little did I know it was my roommate's spit can. He dipped Copenhagen tobacco. Drank my own freaking dip spit on accident. Thinking about it makes me want to puke, but it sure helped me quit dipping. My friend, while he was still living with his parents, was a regular dipper, but his parents strongly disapproved. He got caught because they found his full chew spit bottle and they told him he could drink the whole thing or be grounded for a month. No puking either. He drank the whole thing without puking and as far as I know still dips regularly. My sister works in a chocolate factory. She often brings all sorts of strange chocolate bars like chili strawberry or other weird stuff where I don't even know what's in there because she gets the ones that didn't pass quality check for free and they are not labeled. One day I opened a blind bag and ate half a bar of it. It was some sort of milk chocolate with nuts and mint. I have never had one like that before, but I like mint and it tasted alright. Later that day I was visiting a friend and we played video games and such stuff and I had to fart really badly. I silently let some gas out and when it reached my nose it smelled like a nasty rotten cadaver. It smelled so bad I almost thought this gas was toxic. The only way to describe it is that it smelled like death. When my friend smelled it he laughed at how bad it smelled and opened all the windows. But I just kept farting. It was unbearable and we decided to go outside. I didn't really have a stomachache but I told him I had and went home. After I got home and took a long and nasty crap I went in my room and saw the rest of my chocolate. I was a bit hungry so I broke a bit of it. On the underside were webs similar to one from a spider. I upturned the rest of the chocolate to find maggots and I'm not sure if the web things were cocoons or mold. Chocolate doesn't go off date for quite some time, but the nuts in it apparently can. Never trust anything tasting like mint when mint is not printed on the packaging. A dead person's decomposing fingers. I worked as an autopsy assistant for several years and before the post-mortem we'd have to undress the bodies. I was helping another assistant undress a guy who had already started decomposing and thus was a little juicy. We'd hoisted one arm up over his head to get the shirt off. I was standing next to the body pulling near his elbow while the other assistant was tugging on the shirt sleeve when it came loose all of a sudden due to some skin slip. His arm came flying back into my face with his wet, degloved hand hitting me right in the mouth. It was a sour rotten taste that was just compounded by knowing what it was from. I rinsed my mouth with peroxide a few times but the lingering soreness of my face served to remind me of the event for the next few days. Oh man. When I worked at dog kennels years ago I was too short to throw heavy bags into the full dumpsters so I had a system to flip the bags up on top. I ended that system when one did not get high enough and bust open, spilling a massive amount of sick puppy crap all over me while I was looking up, with my mouth getting pretty dang full. Never threw up so hard in my life. There was a coccidia and giardia outbreak at the time so I had the runs for a week and got pink eye. I was no longer required to do dumpster runs after that. Probably a penny when I was a little kid. Once you realize how dirty money is, it's pretty bad thinking that I used to put them in my mouth. Especially since that penny was in my ass. I once accidentally smoked the cat. She loved the ganj, and since a little kicker would come running from the other side of the house if she smelled it or even heard the flick of a bic. Well, one day the timing was all wrong and she jumped in my lap as I was taking a bong rip. It all happened so fast. I was startled and stood up as I pulled the carb. A bit of her fluffy tail got singed as I inhaled a massive rip. God, it was terrible. It was the smell of burnt hair times 1000 hitting the back of my throat like a Brillo pad bullet. I cried. She was fine. My wife had a cat like that. It would hear the lighter and come running. We never figured out if it liked getting high or just knew it would have an immobile audience for the next couple hours. My friend's toe. He put it in there. I always go to the gym before I go to work. I come back home and make a protein shake. After I blend it together, I pour it into the plastic pitchers you would get from a beer festival. After I pour this protein shake in, I usually finish putting my shoes on or something, then leave. I always drink my protein shake in my car on the way to work. Multitask, you know. I was a mile from my home, and I'm drinking my protein shake and I feel a big chunk. The only solid thing in my protein shakes is a banana. This is too stiff to be a banana. I spit it into my hand. It's a cockroach split in half. I had just killed an adult cockroach in my mouth. The taste, it was so bad. I involuntarily vomited my protein shake against my dashboard almost the second the taste hit my tongue. I spilled the remaining portion of my giant ass protein shake all over my car when I tried to cover my mouth. I took the day off that day from work. A penis. I was curious. To be fair, some guys' dongs taste awful. My wife's friend had her wisdom teeth removed. A few days later, her cheeks were puffed up like a chipmunk. She thought it was just swelling. It wasn't. She was in class when one of them ruptured and filled her entire mouth with hot, grey, lumpy pus. What's the most disgusting thing you've ever done in your life? NSW. Threw up minutes after swallowing an ecstasy pill, used my phone's flashlight to pick it out of the vomit, and sent it back down chased by a beer. Saved $10 that night. Dug through 14 bags of medical waste because a scrub nurse thought she maybe threw away a specialized surgical instrument. In 95 heat, some of the bags had been outside since the day before. The other scrub tech and I kept asking, between bags, if she'd found it. Always no. She found it under a sponge on her tray. Frick you, Stephanie. Was sick. Eating pizza pockets. Threw up. Closed mouth. Short strings of cheese out nose like fricking Spider-Man. I used to roughhouse way too much as a child and constantly ripped holes in my cheap underwear. This exasperated my mother. So to skip being lectured at, I decided to make do with my old ripped underwear for as long as I could. Right after this decision, I had to spend an extra hour on the school bus because of a massive accident on the way, or something. It was also the day I'd ripped my shorts while doing splits at recess. The extra hour was very hard on me, as I usually went potty right after I reached home, probably thanks to the high fiber lunch I ate every day. That day, after more than 40 minutes of extreme bowel control on the bus, 6-year-old me finally lost the battle and let it go. I told myself that I could handle an underwear full of potty for a few minutes. What I'd forgotten about was the holes. The true horror of the situation hit me when I tried to get up and felt a clammy wetness connecting me to the seat. It's a miracle I didn't pass out from shame and extreme anxiety. When the bus pulled up at my stop, I shot out of it like a burst of smelly wind, leaving behind a smushed pile of yellow-brown high-fiber poop on the seat. The driver later told my parents that he could see the imprint of my short seams on the pile and knew it was me, but I'm pretty sure he was lying about that. I am equally sorry that this happened to you and that your bus driver had checked out your butt so many times he could recognize your butt seam on a pile of crap. If he was lying, that was not the way to go. When I was 2, my mother found me in the living room with blood running from my mouth. She of course got very concerned and ran to me to find out what was wrong and rush me to the hospital. Weirdly enough, I was not crying or upset. When she got to me and opened my mouth, she found out why. I was chewing on a giant tick. According to her, the abdomen was about 15mm in diameter. Now you may wonder how such a large tick got in the house. Well, of course it had fallen off our dog. Well, it's honestly not that bad, but I'm sure any workers in healthcare can relate. During clinicals I worked in central processing at a small hospital, and along with all the body fluids, they would send up random body parts on a dumb waiter to be sent to the proper department. I guess the grossest thing that ever came up was a huge anal polyp. Another was a piece of brain, and the black toe they had to cut off due to gangrene. Eventually it stopped being gross and started being fascinating, except for the poop. The poop was always gross. When I was under 10 years old, I pooped a little in a small plastic container, filled it up with water and left it on the side of my balcony. I don't know why I did this, but no one ever noticed. I forgot about it for a couple months, and one day I remembered and came back to see it was still there. So I threw it out the balcony of the 3rd floor. It fell on the parking lot and blew up horridly. I don't know what happened later, but good thing no one was close, as that crap might have been toxic. The short version is that I was severely constipated and had diarrhea behind the hard stool. Once my bowels were evacuated and I had wiped, I lost balance on my weakened legs and caught myself by plowing my hand right into the bowl of a rundown gas station toilet. Don't eat MREs for a week while camping, then cook and eat fish from a questionable creek on the last day. I had to trim all of my fingernails to the meat to get crap smell off of my fingers. I was sneezing like crazy and didn't know why. I tried Piriton and it did nothing. I didn't feel unwell either, so just rolled with it. A couple of days later I was round a friend's house and really sneezed hard and a little curly noodle came out of my nose. I pulled on it slowly and it slid out all wiggly, which set off my gag reflex. I just managed not to puke on my friend's floor, but I wanted to. It measured about 5 inches stretched out. It was from Chinese food I ate 4 days prior. Ate toilet paper off a road. I was keen on dares and doing stupid stuff to get attention when I was 15. Did you at least get money for it? I was a caretaker for mentally challenged people for a while. Once we suspected that this guy had eaten a rubber glove, and to be sure we had to give him an enema to see if something came out. People who are severely handicapped and stuck in a wheelchair don't have bowel movements that often. Sometimes they can go close to a week before things start moving. That was the case with this guy. He hadn't taken a crap for like 5 days before this. He was given the enema in the bathroom and a few minutes later gave birth to a beanbag chair-sized turd on the floor. I then went to the kitchen and got a fork, which I used to mince up the crap like I was portioning out a humongous sloppy joe. The glove wasn't there. I didn't eat for like 3 days after that. Oh my god, you needed the poop knife. Just happened a few weeks ago. I accidentally wiped my butt with the tail of my shirt at work. Somehow got tangled up with the toilet paper on the wipe. Luckily I noticed it before I left the stall and had a t-shirt on underneath and worked somewhere with a lax dress code. Not the grossest thing I suppose since I caught it, but the potential to go back to my desk with a crappy button down is a terrible thought. Once in high school my friends and I got drunk off some giant jug of red wine. I had to go take a crap, then all of a sudden was overcome with the urge to bath. It hit me too quickly to wheel around and use the toilet, so I bathed in the sink in front of me. It was a weird feeling evacuating fluids out of both ends at the same time. My friends hear the commotion and decided to open the door to find me in a real sorry state, then left. Ended up falling asleep while cleaning up. Had food poisoning and was throwing up and diarrhea at the same time. I couldn't sleep because it would happen every 10 minutes. So I slept naked on the bathroom floor with no rugs so I could clean the diarrhea leaking out of my butt easier when I eventually woke up in the morning. This is pretty disgusting but also really smart. My mother tells me she came into the bathroom to see how I was doing. I had taken a crap in the tub and played with the turd. She asked me what I was doing and I said I was playing with a pirate ship. Okay, it's not actually the grossest I've done, but it's a neat image. Heave and ho. A guy at work dipped and spit into a Starbucks cup that still had the lid on. At one point during our programming session I reached over and took a swig thinking it was my coffee. I wasn't able to wash my foot for a good month after I had surgery done on it. My leg up to my knee was nothing but pre-surgery saline solution on top of dead skin and swollen leg, with unshaven leg hair poking through in places. The smell when I washed it for the first time. Did I mention I couldn't even use a washcloth because the entire area was swollen as all heck? My leg smelled like stinky foot and saline solution and dead skin and my sister's facial soap for over a month. When I was in the army my unit left for a few weeks for some training. When we returned we saw a wasp nest up by our company area, so naturally we knocked it down and threw it into the grass behind the building. Next day after PT we find the nest in the grass, has a bunch of dew from the night before on it, and no wasps. Because we're a bunch of stupid grunts, it immediately became a bidding war to get another one of our guys, Hughes, to eat it, which eventually he agrees for the price of $40. Pops it into his mouth, chews for maybe a minute and pops a few larvae still inside and immediately throws it back up, right into my hand. Without missing a beat I hear my squad leader shout out, "Now you eat it, assert your dominance over him." And that's how I earned $40. a half-drunk doctor, pepper, and dominance over my entire company who watched me eat that half-chewed and vomited wasp nest. It's also how I can guarantee my fiancée won't kiss me for a few hours, because she hates that story. Grunts are stupid. It's in our nature to do stupid things. Based on my experience being in an infantry company, this probably wasn't even the dumbest thing done that week. When I was 12 or so, I used to sneak into the kitchen to eat junk food while my parents were downstairs watching TV. On this particular night I couldn't find anything good in the pantry, so I raided my mom's baking drawer. I found an old bag of chocolate chips, then quickly plopped down in front of the family computer and proceeded to munch on them while I zoned out surfing the web. After finishing half of the bag they started to taste funny, so I looked down and the bag was filled with small white maggots. I got the norovirus, came down with it during a trip to IKEA, made it home, but ended up with an immediate need to throw up and have violent diarrhea at the same time. I ended up on the toilet with a plastic bag in my lap for me to bath in, but the bag had a couple tiny holes in it, so it ended up with little streams of puke going in 2 directions. Added bonus, after everything subsided, I blew my nose and half an IKEA meatball came flying out. Okay, that's rough. Woke up in the middle of the night with a runny nose, and while laying there had the urge to sneeze. I was tightly wrapped in my bedding and didn't want to let cool air under the blankets, so I turned my head to sneeze into the wall. A second sneeze was coming and I had the thought that if I aimed it at a different area of the wall, it'd make less mess somehow, so I did. But I didn't have a runny nose of snot, it was a bloody nose, and I woke up in the morning to a crime scene covering about a quarter of my bedroom wall. Got cow crap in my mouth once. It's more of something that happened to me than something I did. I was helping round up cattle. I should mention I was helping out a friend I met in college. His family were ranchers. When cattle get tired from running, their poop gets runny. Anyway, we have them all in a corral and are giving them time to relax and settle down. I'm standing next to the corral chatting with someone. A cow nearby takes a huge, runny crap. It splashed up and a decent sized glob of it went in my mouth. My significant other and I got food poisoning at the same time. We had one bathroom. You never get as close to someone as when you basically have no choice as to whether you crap or vomit together and in front of them, and sometimes crap and puke at the same time. Pretty romantic. I worked in mortgage collections and I started the job 3 days before the 2008 crash. I spent the next 6 months calling all of America, asking for and threatening with foreclosure for payments. I am so very sorry. Please forgive me. This is a different type of post on this thread. Don't blame yourself, because in reality, you were just trying to keep your job and head above the water like everyone else. Licked old applesauce off the side of a dumpster. I was in middle school and the butthole kids were making a whole commotion about being dared to lick that applesauce off the side of a dumpster, and they were really just being too noisy. So my brilliant idea was, frick them. If there's no applesauce, they can't keep daring the other to do it. So I walked up and just ate that applesauce like I was a man desperate to win the $500 prize at a pie eating contest. Why didn't you just clean it up with a paper towel or something, LMAO? A couple of years ago I was really drunk and camping with some friends. I used the porta-john and had my phone with me. It slipped out of my pocket and into the toilet. The toilet was pretty full of water and other things, of course. I was so desperate to save my phone that I stuck my hand into the porta potty and managed to grab it. After that, I put a bunch of hand sanitizer on my hands because there was no sink, of course. My friends and I refer to it as the toilet phone incident. Naturally, the phone did not work after that. I can't even believe I felt the need to grab it because it was just a pay-as-you-go cheap phone. What's the most disgusting secret you've never told anybody? I once peed on a baby. Before you go off thinking the worst, please let me explain. My girlfriend at the time was babysitting a toddler, and she invited me over. The place is pretty ritzy and there's a nice couch we could cuddle up and I could keep her company. Well, about 1-2 hours into hanging out, I decide I have to use the bathroom. I stumble into a few wrong rooms and eventually find the bathroom. They've got a fancy toilet with a bidet and a few other things installed. I never bothered to look too closely, but all's good and well in the kingdom. Apparently one of the rooms I tried looking into was the kid's room. He got freaked out by a nightmare or something and started screaming his head off. flailing, and running around the house like a chicken with its head cut off. Stupid me. I left the bathroom door open, which was the first place he sprinted into. Not only did he run straight towards me, he made a small ring around my position and walked right into the stream of urine. Girlfriend asked why his head was so wet, and I'd never had a more nervous poker face in my life. When I was a little boy, I was at my dad's work over the weekend because he had to finish up some stuff. There was nobody in the building and the place was completely desolate. I had to go to the bathroom badly, so I attempted to go, but the doors were locked. So I ended up shitting on the floor. My dad worked on the 3rd floor, so I just picked up my poop, chucked my crap over the ledge into the main lobby down below. I then washed my hands in the water fountain and continued on like nothing was wrong, never telling my dad. I found a finger on a beach when I was very little. It was wrapped up in athletic type tape. I threw it back into the ocean. You did the right thing. As my grandpappy used to say, when the world gives you the finger, give it right back. Just kidding. He was just some old guy I met at the bus terminal. I was given a toy wheelbarrow type deal when I was younger, like 8 or so. For some crazy reason, me and my sister both took shoots in the wheelbarrow and proceeded to wheelbarrow around a large load. This caused dad much anger. My parents gave my sister and I each a playtime plastic school desk when I was about 4 and she was 3. The desks had a flip-up lid to store books and papers. My sister and I invented a game of potty since these desks reminded us of a toilet. One time my sister slipped up and ended up peeing in one of the desks. Boy, were our parents pee. I've told people this, but it is still pretty nasty. Heck, week of swimming, I didn't go to the bathroom before our 3-hour swimathon. I got out and had to crap so bad, didn't make it to the bathroom. Rode home in shame and fesses. I totally got my period on the starting block once. Everyone saw the blood on the block, and after I finished my race, I wrapped in a towel and stayed in the locker room until time to leave. Whoa, I now realize I have lots of embarrassing stories that have to do with poop. Here's another one. I'm probably 12. Family is visiting from Texas. Mom is trying to show them a good time. On our way home, she suggests we stop at the Queen Mary boat to just look around for a few minutes. Texans are ecstatic and end up wanting to do the guided tour. Mom is broke, so she and I wait in the car. Then the crap train starts tooting its way down my intestines. I really have to go. Mom says hold it. I say I can't anymore. In the backseat of the car, I crap into a cup that my mom holds under my ass. Go team. Your family sounds really close. I once made out with an old, creepy, ugly, smelly, and probably homeless stranger at a bus stop. Don't ask me why I did it. I have no idea. Because he was a suave old, creepy, ugly, smelly, and probably homeless stranger at a bus stop. Rooting around my parents' room in my teenage years, found my mom's wedding dress, put it on and took photos of myself wearing it, then masturbated while still wearing it. This is how music videos get started. So once when I was 19 and back from college, I was at a party and drank a decent amount. Ultimately, one of my friends dropped me back to my house. Now after this, I got back into my car after my friend left because I wanted some McDonald's. I somehow ended up at my ex-girlfriend's house, went up to her front door, and then continued to masturbate on her door. The all spunk in on the ex's door routine. I call it Wednesday night. I can completely control my stomach. I can throw up whenever I want, without sticking my fingers anywhere near my mouth. I can kind of burp vomit up, whenever and wherever I please, on command. This sounds actually pretty cool. If you ever get attacked, you could always use it as defense. When I was about 16 and my little brother was 13 or so, I dared him to take a crap on my sister's room floor for $1. I got him toilet paper, and he took a nice sturdy dump on my sister's carpet. I couldn't believe he actually did it. After that, he told my mother that our dog had taken a crap in my sister's room, and my mom went upstairs and cleaned it up. The thought of my mom cleaning up human crap from a carpeted floor still makes me laugh and cringe at the same time. We never spoke of the incident again. He got his $1. This is a sad story. I feel for your mum. My dad peed on me when he was really drunk one time. I'm sorry bro, my dad was a piece of crap too. After reading the top comment, my most disgusting secret is on par with knitting sweaters for the homeless at Jesus Camp. You and me both, man. It's kind of made me feel better about myself knowing that the worst I've been is nowhere near, not even remotely, the depths to which others have plunged. This thread has turned into sociopaths of Reddit. Tell us how you have fricked over the people in your lives. By pooping on them. Girlfriend and I drove down to her family's house in Mexico. After lots of junk food, caffeine and cigarettes, you can imagine how badly we both needed to crap upon arrival. The doors were locked and in our, oh my god, I have to crap stupors, we couldn't think straight. We both dug holes in the sand and put plastic bags in the holes. We then took shoots right next to each other, together. But we didn't hold hands or anything, so it's cool. So beautiful. I lost my virginity to someone I met on Craigslist. I stole 3 gold teeth from a skeleton in a coffin sealed in a mausoleum for about 90 years. Yeah, you're cursed now. Me and my best friend, who I've wanted to frick forever, were watching YouTube videos at her house on her laptop. She left for a sec to let the dogs out and I switched over to a tab of her Gmail that she'd left open. I searched her ex's name and lo and behold up came nudie pics of my friend. Sent them to myself and masturbated later. Not my proudest moment. I hate thinking with my penis. At first I walked into this thread thinking I got this and would propose victory, but after reading the first few comments on this thread I've realized that I'm normal as frick. You guys are sick. The lower on this page I go, the less gross the comments are, and the more weirded out they are. It's like some twisted pH scale of evil. Throwaway account here. I like the smell of my own farts. One day, while working from home, I tried to waft one up and didn't realize that the chamber was loaded with diarrhea. I crap all over my own hand. Luckily, no one else was there, and I made a clean getaway. Well, as clean as you can make after unloading lunch on your knuckles. That is. Handpooper, you have a great username. You can't let it dwindle as a throwaway account. Oh Reddit, how you make me feel so normal. You have been visited by the super land shark. Comment not today to make sure he doesn't eat you. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.